You have a name that even though maybe if I don't own Rebecca Minkoff, oh, you hear that name and I know of it. It's unique in a day and age where everyone has their audiences and they're all very niche, and it's the 1,000 true fans, and people can so easily make a job off of that. But to have a brand that is so big and has been in department stores, and obviously this journey began 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
15.
Yeah, 15 years ago. For people out there that see that and they're inspired by that, to me, I feel like it almost seems kind of impossible in the 2020 world. But what would you say to people out there who might have a streetwear brand or might have a brand that they want to go beyond their audience? What is their first step? Because I feel like so many people want that, but it's a huge challenge.
So I think that it's 100% possible to establish a brand, but I think that we've been doing it for 15 years, and everyone who wants to have a brand forgets how long it takes.
Right.
You know, if you even look at Supreme, right, which is the hottest streetwear label, cult, all that, you know, I feel like only in the last few years has it become this outside of the Supreme loyalty.
Outside of skateboarding, yeah.
So, I mean, and they've been around for probably more than 20 years. So I think you have to like go, okay, I can order my Amazon Prime and it comes tomorrow, and I can order my Uber, but my career and my brand are going to take 10, 15 years to really get into society and get to the middle of the country and get to
places. Because we want it quick.
What about the idea of having a profitable business that allows you to live your life? Like, what does the fame, you know, like, I think we get convinced by these sexy images on covers of these entrepreneurs who have these big billion-dollar valuations. They've taken hundreds of millions of VC dollars. And they're owned by these VCs. They don't really retain their company. And I'm like, do we all need to have that? I don't know. I would love to have a life where I can go and pick up my kids from school and not be like distracted because I'm worried about a deadline, and I can make myself lunch and not be like, oh, I didn't have time to eat, or oh, I'm not sleeping. Like I think we all need to sort of reframe, like, what do we want out of our lives? And if our company pays for that lifestyle, then that's not a bad thing.
That's such a good point. And when you described your business, you used a word that not a lot of people like to use, and you said a lifestyle business. And that's usually where it doesn't, you know, you're not worrying about every single quarter raising more money. You're not being worried about, you know, the Carlyle Group owning half of your company like Supreme, so you can be valued at that, you know, billions of dollars. And I think that's so important. You don't have to be that unicorn, because that brings so many things. And then at the end of the day, a lot of times you're not a real business. Where's the profit?
Right. Can we talk about that? Because we learned that the hard way. Several years ago, you know, for let's say 12 of the 15 years we've been in business, everyone said it's about growth. Right. Don't worry about profitability. Grow at all costs. Then we went to see what our company was worth, and the investors peeked under the hood. They're like, oh, no, we need you to be profitable. And when you've built up your entire company and you know, didn't make the margin you should make, or, you know, made all these decisions to grow at all costs, turning that Titanic around, it's taken us 3 years, you know, and it's not easy. So why don't you just grow and make money?
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
That's a great thing.
So was that the perspective the first 10 years or so, to just grow? We'll worry about profit later?
Yeah, even more, probably 12 years of that. You know, everyone was looking at the Kate Spades, the Michael Kors, you know, and if you look at how much money, you know, was pumped into those companies, I think Michael Kors had over $40 million put in over time before it even grew, right?
Wow.
So how much cash it took. And I'm sure their investors are happy and it paid them back many times. But when you're priming yourself for something and it switches, it's quite a reality adjustment.
I mean, I can imagine. How did your team change?
It wasn't about the team changing. It was about, okay, if we have to make money, how do we do it? And it can't mean we can raise prices.
Right. So you had enough runway that you could keep the same people, but then you just adjust the business plans around it.
Yes. You had to adjust the business, how you were doing it, who you were selling to, how much. You had to get super granular on things. and frankly say no to a lot of business. We took off over $20 million of business that just wasn't profitable, right? At the end of the day, when you looked at how much money you made off that 20 million and what that was doing as a dilution point to your margin and your brand, it wasn't worth it. So we said, okay, it's not about growing. Let's remove this unprofitable part and really show an organic demand for our customer.
What was that? What did that primarily consist of?
That primarily consisted of off-price. So, you know, a lot of these big brands, how they grow so big is they have extraordinarily large outlet presences. And so we don't have an outlet, but we do have partners that we work with that people shop at all the time that are discounted items. And so rather than feed that machine and also dilute your brand, we just said, we're going to cut that number down by 20 million and focus on where we can make more money.
How do you find the balance in pricing with our products last more than 6 months, right? But you want to be accessible, but you want to be, you don't want to be something that's comparable to something that you would buy at like a Target. Growing up in the suburbs of Texas, I was like, hey, I need some new shirts. Let's go to Target, right? Which nothing wrong with that. I still rep the basic tees all the time. But when you build a brand, you want to stand out in a way, but that also costs. The materials are different. So many things are different. So how do you balance that? Building quality products, setting it at the right price. Was it a smart move obviously because you did it, but with the outlet, you mentioned diluting your brand. What do you mean by that? Like, how do you balance that pricing and the quality of goods?
So I think it's a lot of trial and error. When I launched, my prices were extraordinarily affordable. My bags were $4.95 and $5.95, and that was considered like a steal. That was the contemporary pricing structure. It was Botkier, Kuba, me, a couple of other brands that sadly aren't around anymore. Even Marc Jacobs was that sort of Mark by Mark was that price point. Then the recession hit in 2008, 2009, and we were told by many of our department store partners, if you have a 5 or a 4 in front of any of your bags, we will no longer carry the brand. The customer, not the person has changed, but her bank account has, and her job opportunities and her ability to get raises and promotions has changed. So we lowered the prices. And then we really saw a huge hockey stick growth when we said, okay, what is an opening price point for our customer? She's done with fast fashion. And then who comes next? She can't then go to luxury. Right. What's that in between? And so we really found that the sweet spot was $195 to max $325. And how do we just stay in there? So we know our guardrails are those two, sort of $195 to $325. And we know the bulk of that works at $195, $225. And that's where she is. And we celebrate her. We say, you know what? This is a great value. It is a luxury item made at the same factories that luxury is made. And you're going to get it for a price we know you can pay rent, you can go out to dinner, and you can have your handbag. And so we really try and build everything we do into that pricing structure. And we try things. Sometimes we try and price up. It doesn't work. We know the next year we come out with a similar bag for less. And we just see what works.
How does your manufacturing change when you did that initial price change?
Well, that was fun. We said, let's take the Wrigley's model and just make no money and just go for scale. So let's go for bubblegum here and, cross our fingers that when we reach scale, we can then negotiate margin. So we really just said, if we start ordering 300, 500, 1,000 of the same style, we've got to get a break from the factory. And that is what ended up happening, but it was definitely a moment where you just go like this.
Interesting. So you hope that the numbers can be so big that the manufacturing lowers the prices for you and you can take that profit.
Correct.
Huh. Interesting. When it comes to, you mentioned fast fashion.
Yeah.
And I think fashion has gotten exciting recently just because, but maybe it's not fashion. I don't know. You can correct me on anything I say. But as coming from like the content creator side, I see a lot of people turning their merch into, I kind of roll my eyes every time YouTubers are like, it's not merch, it's streetwear. I'm like, no, it's merch. But people are getting more creative, and it's really cool to see. And it's really cool to see people going beyond the Teespring and slapping a logo on a shirt and getting into cut and sew. And of course you have to, your numbers of course have to be, you know, much higher for that stuff. But how do you see this new market of a lot of people are repping, you know, the YouTuber they watch or the podcast that they listen to, and that has kind of become synonymous with their fashion routine because they want to rep the brand. And I imagine that that also has to do with how you guys have shifted your business too. You know, making your face and Rebecca more part of the conversation on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I think people want to belong to a tribe, and they want it to be very clear whose tribe they're part of. And so whether it is the YouTubers merch or the podcasters merch, you know what? I received a sweatshirt from Spotify, and the network I'm on is owned by Spotify. And it said, keep listening. And then I saw it was made by Champion. That's something I would never wear before, but it's like my airport. Like I have my jogger sweatshirts and then my Spotify Champion sweatshirt. And I'm like,
love it.
I am so cool. I'm wearing streetwear. So I think it's like, I think it's seeped into the zeitgeist that you're showing which tribe you belong to. And that's what matters to people right now. I'm not just, I got something for $20 and I'm going to wear it and it's going to disintegrate in my laundry tomorrow.
Right.